Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I love these kind of shows because I love talking to you on the ground. And this is a big part of my work as an analyst. I need to talk to people that really understand the different industries and understand what is happening, because my goal as a market analyst is to give you the Google Maps for business, to tell you where you should be going, what roads you should be avoiding, and where everyone in the direction of everyone's journeys. So what we do at IDC is, by using data, helping to manage the business in a more predictable way. So we track billions of data points, we track hundreds of thousands of companies across the entire IT space, and by collecting all this data, we are able to understand how the markets are moving. And today, what I'm going to show you, first I'm going to show you a lot of numbers, or at least some numbers. But I will show you how you can use data to predict the business in a way that you probably haven't done so far. By doing so, of course, vendors come to us for direction, come to us for insights, come to us for data, and we work with almost every single consumer electronics in the industry. But before we go to the numbers and to the journey, let's step back. Let's look into the different cycles in the phone industry. And there are two main cycles that we've seen over the last 30 years. One was when people started buying feature phones, basic phones for the first time, mobile phones for the first time. I perfectly remember that period. I was working in Japan at Nokia, and we were discussing how the phone will revolutionize our life. And that's exactly what happened over the last 30 years. And at some point, when Apple and Google and HTC brought the first smartphones, or the more advanced smartphones to the market, we started to see this transition from feature phones to smartphones. And over the last few years, or the last 2-3 years, we started to see a new transition, which is the transition between the normal smartphone to the more intelligent device that we will see in our hands in the years to come. And what this means is that every single time there's a technology shift, there's an opportunity. In the first transition to smartphones, the opportunity was around the digital economy, the mobile digital economy. Today, with this transition to AI, the opportunity is for the circle economy. It's for the refurbished market. Because as consumers will be looking for new devices and buying new devices, they know that they can get a very decent value for their current smartphones. And the market is growing quite significantly. Last year, 1 in 7 smartphones sold globally were refurbished. 15% of the total smartphone sales globally were already refurbished devices. Roughly 200 million units. And that will continue to grow over the next years. And when we put US dollars, money on the table, this is a massive opportunity. Over 100 or nearly 120 billion US dollars by 2030 in terms of the refurbished market. And we are only tracking the organized, structured part of the market. We don't track the transactions, the peer-to-peer transactions. Those people will sell their phones on eBay or sell them to a friend, etc., which is double of this number here. So the market will continue to grow quite significantly. But it's not just about the technology shifts that bring opportunities to this market. It's also crisis. The current memory shortage crisis is a massive opportunity to the refurbished market. We released recently, a couple of weeks ago, the latest forecast for the sales of new phones, and we expect the market to decline 13% in 2026. This is the biggest drop ever in the smartphone industry. And the reason is very well known by all of us. Memory suppliers are basically allocating the entire production capacity to the memory that goes to data centers. Some of the vendors are already putting prices of their smartphones up by 40-50%. And when that happens, it's very simple. Consumers will not buy. the below $200 smartphone segment that represents roughly 10-15% of the global smartphone market will vanish. And this is not me being pessimistic. This is me as an analyst just telling you what the majority of vendors are saying. Vendors like Transsion, vendors like TCL, vendors like other Chinese vendors, they are saying that it's not economically viable to operate in this price segment anymore. As prices go up, of course, sales come down dramatically. Because someone who can only afford the $200 smartphone will not pay $300 or $400. They will just simply delay that purchase, or, and you know what's happening, they will look for better value for money, where refurbished. However, you may ask, oh, but why is not the orange red line spiking in 2026? Because unfortunately, there's not enough stock. Unfortunately, some vendors are buying refurbished products just to get the memory out of it to put on the new devices. So yes, this crisis is probably one of the biggest opportunities for the refurbished market to really accelerate, but it won't happen because there's not enough supply. And that's why it's so important to really work with the different key players, operators and retailers to incentivize them to build and to grow their trade-in programs and buyback. Because otherwise there's not enough stock, as you probably are already experiencing, to supply all the demand. But how can we improve or can you improve the business by using data? So let's look into the typical life cycle of smartphones. A new product is launched, goes up, peaks at some point in sales, comes down. And the next one, again, typical cycle of a product. And the ASP, the price erosion, also happens over time. When the sales of the new phone start coming down, typically the sales of the refurbished start going up. And somewhere between these two trends, or the life cycle of the new phone and the growth of the refurbished, that's where the opportunity is. Where the volumes will start growing, where the margins will also be very attractive. And this is the kind of sweet spot that really, if you identify this sweet spot, you will be able to be prepared for the demand opportunity in the years to come when a new device comes up. So let's try to materialize this. When we look, and I looked into just through the top 3 brands, typically, an iPhone, and this is an average of iPhones, so it's slightly different from model to model. I just aggregate the numbers for the different products, just to give you a sense of how can this work in practice. Typically, an iPhone 6 months later, it peaked, sales start coming down. When it comes to the refurbished, typically, an iPhone peaks around 37 to 40 months. And when the sales of refurbished overtake the new sales of smartphones, it's typically between 25 to 33 months, depending on the brand, and of course, differences between different models. The devices stay on average, the life cycle of the device on average for an iPhone is 47 months between launch and then off life, typically on average 47. Of course, we know that some models tend to be discontinued the following year when a new model comes up, but the Pro Max and the Pro tend to stay much longer. And when we add on top of this the life of a device as refurbished, then we are talking about 76 months for an iPhone on average during the lifetime. So, let's do an exercise. If I asked you when you need to be ready for the iPhone 17, if you are on the refurbished market, if you are on the sales of new iPhones and devices, you are already experiencing the growth and the business with the iPhone 17. But when it comes to refurbished, at some point, you need to know when to get the stock, you need to know what price points you need to be ready for. You need to know when to get the spare parts if you are refurbishing the devices. And you also need to get the cash for the business to happen. So looking into the model that I just showed and applying the data on top, this is exactly what happens. An iPhone has the iPhone 17 has already peaked, typically after 6 months. Sales are starting to come down. At some point, in the first half of next year, the sales of the refurbished iPhone 17s will overtake the sales of new iPhone 17s. And at some point, in the second half of next year, the refurbished 17 series will peak. It doesn't mean sales will drop dramatically. As you can see, sales will continue for a long period of time. But the biggest opportunity is somewhere here. You will continue to trade refurbished iPhone 17s for a long period of time. But if you are able to identify exactly when you need to get the cash, the spare parts, the stock, you can predict your business in a completely different way. Because this gives you an edge to your competitors who will just wait for the orders to start coming in and realize, oh, there's an opportunity where the iPhone is now growing quite significantly. And of course, this doesn't mean the iPhone 17 will be the most popular refurbished device next year. It won't. Maybe the 15 or the 16. But it means that if you start managing the business by using data, you will be able to understand when is the right time to really take action. Thank you very much. I'm leaving a QR code. If you want to scan it, I will give you I will send you the slides and also a free report about the refurbished market. We have all the market share, the price points, and all that stuff. Within 10 minutes, it's impossible to cover all of that. Just to give you a flavor of the kind of data we are able to provide and exchange in collaboration, because we gather data from hundreds of companies. We'll be more than happy to also have a conversation if you are interested in sharing data with us, and we will share this kind of data with you so it helps you to also manage your business in a different way. Thank you very much.